Please remain standing for the national anthems of Kenya and Barbados. Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you. The Honorable Mia Amor Motley, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, Senator Dr. the Honorable Jerome Walcott, the Honorable Rachel Omamo, Senator the Honorable Lisa Cummins, the Honorable Adrian Ford, Your Excellencies, the representatives of Barbados to Kenya and the High Commissioner of Barbados to Kenya and the High Commissioner of Kenya to Barbados, other excellencies, senior officials, captains of industry, ladies and members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this evening's high-level engagement. During the course of this, the next short while, the Prime Minister of Barbados and the President of Kenya will address you, and that will be followed by the signature of 3 agreements between the governments of Barbados and Kenya. The agreements are on the National Botanical Gardens, the Air Services Agreement, and agreement on the Joint Committee on Trade and Investment. May I now please give the floor to the Honorable Mia Amor Motley, Prime Minister of Barbados, followed by the President of Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Your Excellency, my brother, President Uhuru Kenyatta, Ministers of Government of Kenya, the Republic of Kenya and Barbados, the Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya, forgive me for singling him out, but he is also my brother, Ambassador Thompson and other ambassadors, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests all. If I appear to be a little slower in my speech this evening, it is because today is a special day. And all who have witnessed the extent to which we have been able to bring together persons from Kenya in the large numbers, President Kenyatta, that you have brought, along with officials and members of the private sector of Barbados, will know that our two governments are serious about desiring the progress and making the progress that is absolutely critical. Since I left Kenya in December 2019, we had the anticipation that we would come to have the CARICOM AU Summit in June of 2020, that we would have been able to do a whole range of things. And literally, within weeks of returning from Nairobi, COVID hit. But not even COVID can separate us. And I think that all of us recognize now that we are in a marathon and not a sprint. And that we have had in our past to become resilient, and equally this generation of Kenyans and Barbadians must be resilient to the times, whether those times are affected by the pandemic or whether they are affected by the climate. Indeed, I understood it fully when we arrived in Nairobi, because the night on which we arrived, and Minister Walker, if you recall, there were floods, and you had lost many lives. And it was on the eve of the OACP summit. And I remember it as if it was yesterday. I equally remember the battles that you fought with locusts. I come back to the Caribbean, and this year, we ourselves have had battles. In this country, we had the worst ashfall, with the volcanic ash coming 90 miles or so from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, from St. Vincent, La Soufrière, and turning a Saturday morning into night in April of this year, and ultimately costing us the equivalent of 1% of GDP with respect to the damage caused by the ashfall. We equally saw this year a freak storm, which, if you can believe it, had 46,000 strikes of lightning in 90 minutes. It was as if the metallic white of the lightning never stopped for that period of time. And instead of the thunder coming from the sky and the claps of thunder, we had a roaring in the belly of the earth for that period of time. Then only 2 weeks later to be hit by Hurricane Elsa, which has led to the loss of housing. And it could have been far worse, but it was bad enough for those who were on the front line of it. I refer to those things to be able to point to our resilience and to the fact that if we paused because bad things happen, we would never make progress. And that we must move on in spite of the bad things wherever possible. And today, therefore, represents for us that confidence that our journey is the right journey, and that we are seeking to reverse effectively centuries of separation, and that we attest today that not even COVID can keep us apart with that commitment to bring us together. Your country and your part of the world, we all know, represent the cradle of civilization. And it is important for us to acknowledge and recognize that, because too many people today are engaged in the pursuit of fake news and rewriting history. We also recognize that it is absolutely critical that we have a home and partnership in East Africa as a bridge to that further part of the world that goes further east beyond you. And we therefore claim your country as ours, as that hub that links us to the east. In addition to that, it is of significance to me, and if I had my other phone, I'd pull it up, because my screenshot remains a picture of Bob Marley. And you may say, why does she keep calling Robert Nesta Marley? Because, yes, I am a child of that generation. But apart from anything else, we have a responsibility to be able to move forward on a number of things. And one of the things that bothers me is the extent to which the mental emancipation of our people has not been fully embraced. If it was, we would not have to be wondering why it has taken us so long to place representatives in the third of the United Nations global headquarters. We've had representation in New York from the very beginning. And after we became an independent nation, that is where we went and said, friends of all, satellites of none. But it is now imperative that having talked that talk, and having walked it in New York, and having walked it in Geneva, we never walked it in Nairobi. And we made a determination that our country, as an independent sovereign nation and as a proud member of the United Nations system, could not continue to have a situation where not only did we not have a presence in the global south in the United Nations headquarters at Nairobi, but equally as important, that we refrained from appreciating that perhaps, as Ambassador Thompson will tell us, the most critical UN agency for small island developing states now is the UNEP program, United Nations Environmental Program, which is on the front line of the very climate crisis that constitutes our existential threat. And that when you add to that UN Habitat, which allows us to deal with the issue of urban renewal and housing, then we had every right to be in Nairobi a very long time ago. I'm confident that other brothers and sisters of Caribbean governments will join us soon. And therefore, I look forward to us being able to complete that process, because the absence of air transport and maritime transport directly between Africa and the Caribbean must be a historic omission that we have a solemn and moral obligation to correct. When the Africa Union Summit, which you chaired, my brother, so ably last month took place, I ended with these words, that we have to remove the middle passage, remove the middleman, and remove the middle leg. We all know what the middle passage was. That horrendous journey that has scarred us for centuries. We all know how the middleman works, because the middleman more often than not has come from the North Atlantic region and has taken our product, has turned it into what they want, and has sold it back to the global south for multiple times what the originators of the product receive for it. And we all know what the middle leg is, because there are too many Caribbean people or African people who, in wanting to visit each other's countries, are told, you have no visa to land in the United States of America, or you have no visa to land in the United Kingdom or France or the Netherlands, and therefore you are not able to travel to those countries. If we do not seize the moment, as we are trying to do now, then we will forever be victims of a time and a power over which we have no control. The time being history, and the power being others who have other interests that are not the same as ours. So without any further ado, I want to thank you and to give an idea to Barbadians of what really you have brought here, because I'm not sure that they know. And forgive me if I just go through the wonderful document that sets out some of the people who have come or interested have come. As I indicated, we are more than honored, and this is not the first trip of the governor. The governor came here in 2019 at your request, and therefore it proves to be an enduring relationship. Similarly, the KCB Bank Group is represented. I know Joshua couldn't come at the last minute, but he too is a friend of Barbados. and he sent others to represent him. Ken Invest, which is the equivalent of Invest Barbados, is also here. Kawara Limited, which deals with mobile banking and for financial cooperatives and credit unions and community banks. This is exactly where, as a country, we need to go with respect to our credit unions, and I'm happy that discussions have been taking place with local entities and Kenyan entities about how best to move. Equity Group Holdings Limited, which is one of the largest, Equity Group is one of the largest banks in Kenya, and therefore you understand that financial services is very much also at the center of what we want to discuss. Pay the Easy Way, that is your digital payments, I'm told, in the same way that we have our own here as well, so that opportunity. Safaricom is Kenya's telecommunications firm. We have ours here, but Safaricom, and forgive me, Mr. President, if I also remember of one of the great Caribbean sons who would have helped you in Safaricom, who is no longer with us as well, Robert. Lamy Technologies, which is an insurance technology company that offers innovative digital insurance solutions. So that when you see us talk about wanting to participate with Kenya and Singapore, with fintech in the savannah, you begin to understand why we believe that there are market opportunities between Barbados, Kenya, and Singapore with respect to the digital technology in the financial services area. In the matter of travel and tourism, Kenya Airways, and I hope that after the air services agreement is signed today, that we will be in a position to be able to do the substantive work now of unlocking that air travel that we also want badly to happen across East Africa, West Africa, the Caribbean, and other areas in the Americas. Similarly, representatives of the Kenya Tourism Board, we've said that we all both have some of the same partners, and therefore the market share that we attract to come to Barbados is invariably the same ones who come to Kenya for safari, and we believe we have opportunities for joint marketing. In the area of energy, and of course, Kenya Electricity Generating, Oilfield Movers Limited. In the area of marketing and advertising, Magnet Ventures Limited, that deals with an advertising and image company. So you see that the range of interests are across an area of export, transport and logistics, company Express Shipping and Logistics Limited. Without the logistics being mastered, we're not going anywhere. So that the partnership that must come on both sides. And then, of course, biotechnology and biotrade, so ever important in the world in which we live today. And a member of the BOC group, BOC Gases, also Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate. You will recognize that that is going to be critical because the second agreement that we'll sign today will be the Botanical Gardens cooperation between the National Botanical Gardens in Barbados and the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate. And it is significant because, President Kenyatta, you planted a tree, and so did I. And then I planted one in Nairobi. So you're going to come and visit yours, and I'll visit mine again sometime in Nairobi. And then the Kenya Bureau of Standards, which is an indicator that you're really serious. Because if we are serious about trade, then we have to be serious about fair trade and trade that allows us to adhere to the standards that make it sustainable. And then, of course, the Semiconductor Technologies Limited. In terms of business alliances, the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, just as the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Then, of course, my friend, the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, good to see you again. We opened the other ones when I was there in Nairobi. And of course, on our side in Barbados, there is the respective agencies that have been involved, from Invest Barbados to the Barbados Port Authority to the Barbados Investment Development Corporation, and I can go on and on. But what is also of significance is that our High Commissioner, Mr. Alex MacDonald, is here. Barbados has opened up its High Commission, and with the cooperation of your government and others, we were able also to identify common space, and we're therefore hopeful that other CARICOM countries and CARICOM will join us soon in Nairobi. But we did not wait for anyone to come to go, because we are convinced and confirmed that this is the right thing to do. And your country has a population, I believe, of about 49 million, which is significantly more than our 300,000. But we want to believe that we are equal in passion, and that we are equal in commitment, and that we are going to both land at a destination that will see prosperity and opportunity provided for our respective people. So thank you very much, Mr. President. It is my pleasure. And I feel wrong saying, Mr. President, thank you very much, my brother.
Thank you.
There is one other agreement that will be signed, which I didn't mention, which of course is the Trade and Investment Agreement, and that is the umbrella agreement and the prelude, of course, to the next one, which will be the Bilateral Investment Treaty. So thank you very much. Please.
Thank you very much. And the Honorable Mia Motley, my dear sister and Prime Minister of Barbados, all the ministers here present, delegates from Barbados and Kenya, let me once again say what a great delight it is to be back on this beautiful island after my very first trip here, which was later followed by a trip by my sister to Nairobi. I want to begin by saying that I don't want to repeat everything Mia has said, but one of the things that I am really very proud of, and one of the great honors I think I can say I have had during my presidency, is meeting up with my sister on the sidelines of UNGA in New York and establishing a relationship that started once again to build back the Pan-African spirit that existed in the early 40s into the 50s. And unfortunately, once we respectively got our independence, self-government, in the case of Barbados, soon to be independence, looking forward to that. You should have had that happen while I was here. But we managed to successfully navigate a path of bringing our two regions together. We have, over that period, strengthened our diplomatic ties, not only between Kenya and Barbados, but between the CARICOM and the African Union. We have, with my sister, spearheaded various activities aimed at improving the links between our two countries. During this COVID pandemic, we on the African continent and as members of the African Union were actively engaged in trying to ensure that we secure vaccines. And one of the things that we realized was that that would be extraordinarily difficult were we to go individually, because we were determined this time around that we needed to be able to ensure that we had the capacity to protect our citizens and to vaccinate our citizens. Again, after consulting with my sister, we agreed that it would not only be an African initiative, but it would be an African initiative that included the African diaspora and that was mainly the CARICOM countries, and we moved together towards that end. The most unfortunate aspect of the whole thing is that whereas we were now ready for our bulk purchasing, we didn't want anybody's charity. Once again, we landed ourselves in the perpetual problem that those who had access to these vaccines denied us, and we were not begging, we were not borrowing. We wanted to purchase our own vaccines for our own population. And there again, the spirit of how necessary it is for us not just to stick together, but to also to find common solutions towards meeting the problems that we individually and collectively face. Together, we also started and spearheaded the need to have the very first ever Africa CARICOM Summit. And this was something that we discussed when my sister visited Nairobi and was supposed to be held on the sidelines of Chogam last year. No, the year before. Last year, yes, last year. Last year. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we were not able to do so. But again, talking to the resilience of our two countries and our two peoples, we still managed this year to hold that first Africa CARICOM Summit, where we had participation from all the different recs of our continent, together with leaders of CARICOM, and it is my hope that that will either become an annual or biannual event that seeks to strengthen the ties between our two countries. But over and above that, we have also sought to deepen our people-to-people exchanges. And there can be no better way than what is happening here today. Because at the end of the day, despite the fact that we may work towards the strengthening of our bilateral arrangements, our diplomatic arrangements, it is you, the people or the respective people of our two countries, who can turn those good relations into trade relations, into profitable and meaning relationships that continue to cement the work that we are trying to do at the diplomatic or at the governmental level. So without doubt, my sister, it is something of great pride that again, despite the challenges of COVID, and were it not for the COVID pandemic, we would have had many, many more people who were highly interested in coming out, but as a result of the limitations occasioned by the pandemic, were not able to do so. And I am certain that those who have come on this trip will be the vanguard that will bring many, many more back to this great island, back to this region, and also hopefully those with whom they have managed to engage with from Barbados will also act as a catalyst and as a vanguard from bringing many, many more people, not only from Barbados, but also from the Caribbean, back to the African continent, re-engaging with their brothers and sisters on the continent on matters trade, on matters tourism, on matters culture, on matters sports, on matters education, on matters of prosperity for our two peoples. One of the areas that we are of the same mind completely is the fact of how difficult it is for our peoples to be able to move freely between our countries without necessarily having a third leg or a third watchman, an unwanted parent, we may say, standing in the middle of us. And we have been engaging ourselves on how we can actually establish direct air and sea links between our two countries and our two continents. And this is one area where we are hoping to find great success. Success that will make it easier for the businessmen and women, for those seeking to re-engage with the African continent, to be able to do so without having to wait for visas from third parties, seeking permission from third parties, but being able to do so directly on a bilateral basis. This is something that we hope that we shall succeed in the very near future, and we should make it that much easier for us to be able to visit each other, to work together, and to partner together. We are all signatories to various arrangements. There is no reason why those of us in the continent can't work with their colleagues in the Caribbean to take advantage of the various arrangements that exist, trade arrangements that exist between these islands and North America. Likewise, there is nothing equally to prevent investors and businessmen and women from these islands to take advantage of the various arrangements that we have with various countries, be it in Europe, the Middle East, and Asia, which would also be a bonus and open up new markets and new possibilities for yourselves here as well. So these are some of the areas, and I don't want to go through all the various agreements that we will be signing, but I am very excited about the partnership that we've been having, especially in the digital world. We are hoping that what we have learned and the experiences that we have gone through, we can be able to share with yourselves, and also as a result open new possibilities, new outlets, new ways of doing business between ourselves in a much more direct fashion. I'm very excited about my visit also and the exchanges that we are having in the botanical gardens. And this really is just to emphasize the importance of our partnership, not only in maintaining and developing our biodiversity, but also cementing our own environmental credentials and our partnership, particularly in the critical area of climate change, which is a reality for all of us. And this is a great way of reintroducing that partnership, as my sister has said. UNEP, which is headquartered in Nairobi, is really the headquarters of the United Nations Environment Program. But here we are again, working directly in partnership, in cognizance of the need for us to be able to protect and preserve our own biodiversity through practical exchanges between us. We've also talked and has also mentioned the issue of joint partnerships in tourism. Again, there is no reason why we can't take advantage of the fact that our clientele is still largely the same, and why we cannot work together to attract people who come to this beautiful island for their beach holidays, to also have the possibility of experiencing a wildlife safari on the African continent, and vice versa, and working together to jointly market our products in order once again to create wealth and job opportunities for our people. So, my sister, without necessarily repeating everything you have said, I want to thank you in particular and your government for the manner in which you personally have pushed for this revival of the Pan-African spirit. And this is something that I personally have a great deal of attachment to, given my father himself had great support from many great names that originated from these islands in the struggle for our own independence. And here we are, working together with my sister, confronting today's challenges that face us, but doing so and recognizing that we are stronger working on these together as opposed to apart. I want to thank the people of Barbados once again for the hospitality that they've shown me and my delegation during our stay, and to say that we look forward also to be the first African country to host the first Barbadian president in the very near future, and I hope that's going to happen before my term ends. Yeah? So that we can continue to consolidate our partnership, our brotherhood, and indeed our cooperation, not only at a bilateral level, but also at the multilateral level. So once again, thank you all very much, and I really look forward to following up with some of the people in this room to get a better understanding of the progress that we have made and what we as a government can do to facilitate you to be able to move that much faster and more effectively in cementing these partnerships. I thank you once again, Prime Minister. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that at this stage we hand back over to UPS. We step back. I think this is one time we lose our seats.
Sorry. Trade and investment? Trade and investment? Sorry. Give me the folder, though. Give me the folder. Okay, ladies and Prime Minister President, ladies and gentlemen, the first agreement is the agreement on creation of a joint committee on trade and investment. Prime Minister had described it as a preparation for the bilateral investment agreement. It's being signed for Barbados by Senator Dr. Honourable Jerome Walcott, Minister of Foreign Affairs, and by Honourable Rachel Omamo, Minister of Foreign Affairs for Kenya. And basically what you're seeing is the exchange of the documents, because each one has to be signed by both signatories. Each country has their own version of the same text. Minister Omamo, if you can stay, please. You're signed next one, but Minister, and if you can. Minister Cummins, may I ask you to come, please? Senator, the Honourable Lisa Cummins, responsible for tourism and international transport, will be signing on behalf of the Government of Barbados the air services agreement between Barbados and Kenya, while Minister Omamo signs on behalf of the Government of Kenya. Thank you, Minister Cummins. Minister Ford, may I ask you, please? Thank you. The Honourable Minister Adrian Ford and the Honourable Rachel Omamo will now be signing the third agreement, which is agreement on the National Botanical Gardens. May I ask the two honourable ministers to exchange agreements? Kenya will be given Barbados' version, and Barbados will be given Kenya their version. We'll go back to come in. And we'll now ask the other ministers of Barbados who signed to come and have all together picture. Thank you. Please make space for the Prime Minister and the President. Okay. Thank you. I'd like to thank you all for your attention. Ladies and members of the press, this event is now over. Thank you.